Anyway, I'm gonna talk about this climate bill. Let me just start off by saying, climate change is a real thing, and it's going to destroy the planet, right? In the next 80 years from now, we are going to have. I apologize, I'm drinking seltzer. We're going to have a massive societal change. The global order as we know it will completely change. And there's really no amount of pretending that's going to keep us from having that scenario. We need a bold and real climate bill to be passed not just in the United States. Even if we had the Green New Deal pass in the United States of America, that would not be enough to get us out of this, right? We need a international climate deal that actually is enforceable and that every country participates in. Another thing that I want to say before I get into this, two more things. One thing, the ability to go green is not something that is so easily given to burgeoning industrialized societies in Africa, South America, and the Middle East. One of the major things going on is there are a lot of countries that are finally able to industrialize in their own way because, they were colonized for the last 200 years or so, and they were unable to do so previously. And just saying, we need to go green and then banning all fossil fuel emissions will end up being racistly implemented because, of course, there are a lot of countries going on that are struggling to even get to industrial status. They are still pre-industrial. And so we need an international agreement to not only stop committing genocides in these countries, stop colonizing these countries, or stop installing puppet dictators in these countries, but we need to provide international reparations. That really is the only way out of the climate apocalypse, the way I see it. And another thing is the United States recently passed this climate bill, and I don't want to pick on this guy too much, but I'm going to pick on this guy just because this is the worst article I saw on the subject. And I just want to talk about it. So this is from The Hill. Democrat after final passage of climate bill, quote, "Now I can look my kids in the eye." So one of my problems with the Democratic Party is they like to not do the bare minimum and then brag about it. But they like to do insert whatever number, 69 points below the bare minimum, and then brag about it. You know what I mean? Like the bipartisan infrastructure bill. Remember Joe Biden? We did infrastructure. Woo! And then bridges are still collapsing, right? People are still getting poisoned water, leaded water, right? And so that's the problem, is Democrats do these so-called bills that's called the climate bill, and then they make a huge deal about it, and this bill is not going to save us from extinction. It's just not. Right? It's really not. It's barely, if anything at all, going to change the forecast. Okay? But Representative Brian Schatz is so proud he can finally look his kids in the eye and say that I passed the climate bill. Now, instead of being extinct in 83 years, we will go extinct in 85. Woo! Now, this is the thing that I hate about the Democratic Party. Is, again, they do this stupid nonsense. They pass these these bills, that, yes, is there some good stuff? I don't want to be too much of a doomer. Is there some good stuff in this climate bill? Yes. Is the good stuff outweighing the bad stuff in some areas? Yes. But one of the problems is that just like the infrastructure bill, have you heard Democrats talk about infrastructure at all since they passed this bipartisan infrastructure program? Have you heard them mention, oh yeah, we got, this is just the beginning, we got to keep going? Have you heard any Democrat, anyone, Sherrod Brown maybe, he loves to talk about how he's for the working man. Hell, have you heard Bernie Sanders talk about an infrastructure upgrade since this bill has happened? Not really. And so that's the problem here. If it really was a good first step, then it would be treated like a good first step. But these politicians, especially Democrats, they do, again, not the bare minimum. This is not the bare minimum, but 87 points below the bare minimum. And then they parade around like they just solved the world's problems. Right? And so, now again, is there some good stuff in this climate bill? Sure. Is it all horrible? No. And does the bad outweigh the good? I mean, it depends on what kind of scale you want to bring up. But again, does it nearly go far enough to, I don't know, stop the Antarctic ice sheets from melting? No. Does it go far enough to stop the seas from rising? No. Does it go far enough to stop the Middle East from becoming completely inhabitable and there being millions and millions and millions of climate refugees? No. So, that's my problem here. But I want to read this article because, again, this encompasses the Democratic kind of, like, mood so well. Senator Brian Schatz was visibly emotional after the Senate passed a sweeping spending bill Sunday afternoon, emphasizing the importance of what Democrats are heralding as the largest climate investment in U.S. history. Now again, what does that mean? The largest climate investment in U.S. history. Like the language. I need you to look at the language that these politicians use, right? The largest climate investment is in U.S. history. This is like releasing the very first slave and then going like, we've released more slaves just now than we ever have, right? Like, it's like, what? It's like, it's just weird. It's like stopping the Iraq war after, or Afghanistan war, after like 10 years instead of 20 years. We're taking bold steps, right? Like, it's like, huh? Like, you know what I mean? Like, of course it's the most largest climate investment in U.S. history. Of course, it's the first. Like, it is one of one. It is not like one out of 639 trillion different bills that have passed, and this is the best one. It is one out of one, okay? So, and that's the problem here, is like, I am worried that, let's say Democrats do well in the midterms. It actually isn't looking too out of possibility. With the Roe v. Wade backlash going on, and good candidates rising up all across the country, we could see a 52 seat Senate, a 53 maybe seat Senate. But will Democrats go back and update this legislation? That's what I'm worried about. That's what I'm worried about, is that they won't, because they already passed the largest climate investment in U.S. history, so why go back and do that? I'm going to turn my air conditioner on. Give me a sec. So, this is my problem with the way Democrats talk about these bills, is they talk about them kind of like they're in a fantasy world. Right? Like, it's not real life. Like, oh, great. We're going to delay extinction by 6 weeks. Wonderful. Quote, this is a planetary emergency, and this is the first time that the federal government has taken action that is worthy of the moment. Who defines what action is worthy of the moment? Who defines that? Schatz does? Schatz said outside the Senate chamber minutes after the bill passed, this is the biggest climate action that any country has ever taken. And now I can look my kids in the eye and say we're ready to do something about climate. Again, the Senate passed a mammoth bill. First of all, mammoths, one of the greatest animals to ever roam the earth ever. Do not disparage the great name of mammoths with this legislation. Shortly after 3 p.m. on Sunday, capping off a marathon session that featured more than 15 hours of debate, Vice President Harris cast a tie-breaking vote. The bill, titled the Inflation Reduction Act, provides $369 billion in energy security and climate investments. The measure includes $4,000 and $7,500 tax credits for purchasing used and new electric vehicles. Like, again, right? Okay, electric vehicles, great. Are they better than gas-powered vehicles? Sure. But also, we're going to need to stop using cars in general. We're going to maybe need to have more public transportation, maybe more trains, maybe more, I don't know, like, we need to have green everything else. Electric cars, cool. Is it a step in the right direction? It is like if you're going to walk from, like, you know, Los Angeles to New York City, right, and you take that first step outside your front door, is that a step in the right direction? Probably. But are you anywhere close? Not even remotely close, right? So again, that's the thing here, is they're really touting this like they've done something wonderful and grand, and I know that they need to, like, you know, pump up their legislation, but, like, I mean, like, I see this and I just cringe. And I know a lot of people younger than me, I'm 26, a lot of people younger than me, they see this and they cringe. You know what I mean? Right? It's like, oh, wow, $4,000 tax credit for electric vehicles. That'll stop climate apocalypse. Like, to me, it's just an insult. Like, it's, again, it feels like the infrastructure bill all over again. As they do this stupid infrastructure bill, it doesn't really do anything. It's mostly just a big handout to corporations, and then they brag about it for a year. Respectively, but the funds cannot go toward vehicles that have batteries made from minerals processed in China. So they're putting, like, China garbage in here. I will be honest, I have not looked into the bill terribly too much ever since Joe Manchin decided that he's going to gut it entirely and replace all of it with, like, a bunch of coal subsidies and a pipeline subsidy, right? I kind of tuned out at that point. The legislation is expected to bring down climate warming emissions by 40% over the next 10 years. We don't need 40% over the next 10 years. We need 100% over the next 10 years. We need 160% over the next 10 years. We need to develop and fund carbon capture programs over the next 10 years. Okay? Did I really spit on the lens? Oops. We've been fighting for this for decades. If this is the result of fighting for decades. Now, again, if they were to say this is the first step, we're going to keep going. Right, this is my ideal. What people always ask, what about solutions? What do you want Democrats to do? Okay, I want Democrats to say this is a great bill. We're just getting the ball rolling, but you got to vote in the midterms because we couldn't get this, we couldn't get that, we couldn't get this. Vote in the midterms. Maybe we get 52, 53 senators. Then maybe we can get a better bill. We can amend this bill. We can add more extra stuff. We can, right? But they're not doing that. They're just going like, all right, we're done. What? No, you're not done. It's like, you know, it's like the fucking bell rings for lunchtime and you just walk out the school. What? No, you still have half the day left, motherfucker. It's going to make a difference to my grandkids. When your grandkids are drowning in the rising seas, when Hawaii stops existing overall, when Hawaii is nothing but a super volcano, right? Because all of the other land masses have been submerged by the rising seas. I'm sure your grandkids are going to think, oh, my grandpa Brian did all he could. You know what I mean? And that makes me feel very, very good. Very, very good. What is this, like a fucking Curb Your Enthusiasm bit? Jesus. Now, again, I don't want to pick on Brian Schatz too much. I just saw this article, and it was the cringiest of the ones I could find. But, again, this attitude from Democrats is not sustainable. It really isn't. Like, now, again, if Democrats win 52, 53 Senate seats, right? 54, right? Hey. And then they do extra legislation. You know what? Bygones be bygones. If Brian Schatz votes on an actual climate bill, if we get 40 or 55 senators or something, you know what? Whatever. Good stuff. But I feel like that's unlikely to happen. I do. And that's why I'm nervous about this, because like them or not, and I don't like Democrats at all, but like them or not, Democrats, the Democratic Party in the United States, is the only vehicle we have that can even remotely have the potential to stop climate apocalypse. Right? So whether or not you like Brian Schatz or Joe Manchin or Joe Biden or Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer or Ed Markey, whoever, right? This is really, and I know it's a sad state of affairs, but this is really the only vehicle we have to stop climate change. So we can't abandon the Democrats because they're at this moment abandoning us. So, hey, I don't know. This is my opinion. There you go.